Donald Trump, the real estate mogul turned president, offered simple words of advice to university graduates Saturday as he urged them to follow their convictions, prepare to face criticism and relish the opportunity to be an outsider. "It's the outsiders who change the world," Trump declared in his first commencement address to more than 18,000 graduates of Liberty University, a Christian school whose president was one of Trump's earliest and most outspoken supporters during last year's presidential campaign. Trump kept to a largely upbeat message during the roughly 30-minute speech, never mentioning his stunning decision this past week to remove James Comey as FBI director. Trump said Comey is a showboat and grandstander who was fired because he wasn't doing a good job. But the timing of Trump's decision raised questions as he remains frustrated by FBI and congressional investigations into Russia's role in the 2016 presidential campaign that ended with Trump's election, along with possible ties between Trump associates and the Russian government. Trump said Saturday that he could name a new director by Friday, when he departs on his first foreign trip as president to Saudi Arabia, Israel, Italy, and Belgium. Justice Department officials began interviewing candidates in Washington on Saturday. Drawing parallels to what was widely viewed as a long-shot presidential bid by Trump, who had never held elective office before winning the November election, Trump urged the graduates to never stop fighting for what they believe in. "Remember this, nothing worth doing ever came easy," he said. Tens of thousands of people packed an on-campus stadium to welcome Trump, the second sitting president to address the university's commencement ceremony, with applause and a standing ovation. "Following your convictions means you must be willing to face criticism from those who lack the same courage to do what is right, and they know what is right, but they don't have the courage or the guts or the stamina to take it and to do it," said Trump, who did not wear a gown. Trump advised the graduates to never quit and to carry themselves with dignity and pride. "Demand the best from yourself and be totally unafraid to challenge entrenched interests and failed power structures," Trump said, in a dig at the Washington political establishment he has vowed to shake up. Does that sound familiar, by the way? Trump also urged graduates to treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation and relish the opportunity to be an outsider. "The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead," he said. "You must keep pushing forward." Trump suggested they choose careers they love or you most likely won't be very successful at it. Trump won an overwhelming 80% of the white evangelical vote during the election, and a recent Pew Research Center survey marking his first 100 days in office, a milestone reached on April 29, found 3/4 of white evangelicals approved of his performance as president. Just 39% of the general public held the same view. Christian conservatives have been overjoyed by Trump's appointment of Justice Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, along with Trump's choice of socially conservative cabinet members and other officials. But they had a mixed response to an executive order on religious liberty Trump signed last week directing the IRS to ease up on enforcing a rarely enforced limit on partisan political activity by churches. Trump also promised regulatory relief for those who object on religious grounds to the birth control coverage requirement in the Affordable Care Act health law. Yet the order did not address one of the most pressing demands from religious conservatives: broad exemptions from recognizing same-sex marriage. Jerry Falwell Jr., Liberty University's president who endorsed the thrice-married Trump in January 2016 just before that year's Iowa caucuses and became a key campaign surrogate, praised Trump's actions on issues that concern Christian conservatives. "I really don't think any other president has done more for evangelicals and the faith community in 4 months than President Trump has," Falwell told the Associated Press in a telephone interview on Friday. Trump spoke at Liberty University in January 2016, drawing some laughs when he referred to one of the Bible's books as 2 Corinthians instead of the more common 2 Corinthians. In that speech, Trump promised to protect Christianity. He made the same pledge again Saturday. As long as I am your president, no one is ever going to stop you from practicing your faith or from preaching what's in your heart, said Trump, an occasional churchgoer. We will always stand up for the right of all Americans to pray to God and to follow his teachings. Trump is scheduled to address graduates of the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut, on Wednesday. President Donald Trump has told graduates of Liberty University, the nation's largest Christian college, to embrace the label of an outsider. Trump paid tribute to the university's president, one of his earliest political supporters, and criticized the Washington establishment as the keynote of his remarks at Liberty's commencement ceremony Saturday. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider, Trump told a crowd of about 50,000 at the school's stadium in Lynchburg, Virginia. Being an outsider is fine. Embrace the label, because it's the outsiders who change the world. The speech was Trump's first commencement address and his first extended public appearance since Tuesday, when he abruptly fired FBI Director James Comey, who was investigating Russia's role in last year's U.S. presidential election as well as possible connections between Trump's campaign and the Russian government. Continuing his populist, anti-establishment narrative, the president said he has seen firsthand how the system is broken in Washington. He urged Liberty's graduates to resist a small group of failed voices who think they know everything. We don't need a lecture from Washington on how to lead our lives, said Trump. Liberty graduates more than 18,000 students this year, about 6,000 of them attended Saturday's ceremony. Before the address, Trump and Liberty President Jerry Falwell Jr. stood for the U.S. national anthem. Falwell, the son of the late televangelist and conservative activist Jerry Falwell, was widely seen as having helped Trump win 80% of the white evangelical vote. A recent Pew Research Center poll found that 3/4 of white evangelicals approved of Trump's performance during his first 100 days in office, compared with 39% of the general public. Before the friendly crowd, Trump expressed his appreciation for evangelicals. "Boy, did you come out and vote," he said. The president received some of the loudest applause when he assured the crowd that he would continue to protect their religious freedom. As long as I am your president, no one is ever going to stop you from practicing your faith or from preaching what's in your heart, he said. Christian conservatives have been pleased with Trump's appointment of Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch and his choice of socially conservative cabinet members and other officials, such as Charmaine Est, a prominent anti-abortion activist who was tapped as Assistant Secretary of Public Affairs at the Department of Health and Human Services. Some Christian conservatives have given mixed reviews, though, to Trump's executive order that directs the Internal Revenue Service to relax a rarely enforced limit on partisan political church activity. The order did not address broad exemptions from recognizing same-sex marriage, one of the most pressing issues for religious conservatives. Trump has spoken at Liberty University before. While campaigning there in January 2016, he drew laughs from audience members when he referred to one of the Bible's books as 2 Corinthians rather than the more common 2 Corinthians. He promised during that speech, "We're going to protect Christianity. I don't have to be politically correct." Trump is the second sitting president to deliver a commencement speech at the university. George H.W. Bush was the first to do so in 1990. Donald Trump gave career advice to university graduates on Saturday and offered himself as a blueprint, lavishing praise on outsiders who know they are right and denouncing pathetic critics. Trump left the controversies besieging him in Washington behind to fly to Lynchburg, Virginia, and present himself as a man of God to a supportive crowd at Liberty University, the biggest Christian college in America. His half-hour commencement address did not touch on his decision to fire James Comey, the director of the FBI, but was nevertheless shot through with references to his own life philosophy. "The fact is, no one has achieved anything significant without a chorus of critics standing on the sidelines explaining why it can't be done," said Trump, who wore a suit instead of the academic gown customary on such occasions. Nothing is easier or more pathetic than being a critic because they're people that can't get the job done. But the future belongs to the dreamers, not to the critics. The future belongs to the people who follow their heart no matter what the critics say because they truly believe in their vision. Jerry Falwell Jr., the president of Liberty University, said there were more than 50,000 people in the crowd, the biggest ever turnout for a commencement address at the college. Trump was only the second sitting president to speak there, following George H.W. Bush in 1990. Falwell presented him with an honorary doctorate of laws. Trump, who reportedly does not read books, told the graduates, "Remember this. Nothing worth doing ever came easy. Following your convictions means you must be willing to face criticism from those who lack the same courage to do what is right, and they know what is right but they don't have courage or the guts or the stamina to take it and to do it. It's called the road less traveled." The billionaire businessman, TV celebrity and novice politician continued, "In my short time in Washington, I've seen firsthand how the system is broken. A small group of failed voices, who think they know everything and understand everyone, wanted to tell everybody else how to live and what to do and how to think. But you aren't going to let other people tell you what you believe, especially when you know you're right." There was applause from the audience, some of whom wore red "Make America Great Again" baseball caps. The president added, "We don't need a lecture from Washington on how to lead our lives. I'm standing here looking at the next generation of American leaders. There may very well be a president or two in our midst. Anybody think they're going to be president? Raise your hand." He urged the graduates to never quit or give up. Later he again made reference to his own experience, "They're totally unafraid to challenge entrenched interests and failed power structures." Does that sound familiar, by the way? Indeed, some of the remarks gave an insight into his own willingness to dig in against opposition, as evidenced during the turmoil of the past week. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider. Embrace that label, being an outsider is fine. Embrace the label because it's outsiders who change the world and who make a real and lasting difference. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead, you must keep pushing forward. There were other familiar Trump touchstones: how evangelical Christians voted for him in the election, how the beautiful stadium at Liberty was packed, digressions about upcoming sports fixtures. Falwell was one of Trump's earliest and most outspoken supporters, helping him win 80% of the white evangelical vote despite his colorful New York past including 3 marriages. A recent Pew Research Center survey marking Trump's first 100 days in office, a milestone he hit on the 29th of April, found 3/4 of white evangelicals approved of his performance as president while just 39% of the general public shared this view. However, critics of Trump questioned why a man who was caught boasting about groping women, on an Access Hollywood tape that came to light during last year's election campaign, was being embraced by devout Christians. Trump was careful to speak of the country's religious heritage dating back to the Pilgrim Fathers. "In America, we don't worship government, we worship God," he said. "As long as I am your president, no one is ever going to stop you from practicing your faith or preaching what's in your heart. We will always stand up for the right of all Americans to pray to God and follow his teachings." It was not Trump's first speech at Liberty University. In January 2016 he made a speech promising, "We're going to protect Christianity, and I can say that. I don't have to be politically correct." But he inadvertently drew laughs in January 2016 when he referred to one of the Bible's books as 2 Corinthians instead of the more common 2 Corinthians. Introducing him this time, Falwell told the audience, "President Trump ventured into politics at a time when our nation has never been more polarized. He deserves our respect and admiration for enduring relentless and often dishonest attacks from the media, the establishment on the left and the right and from academia. Trump was making his first extended public appearance since he dismissed Comey, whom he branded a showboat and grandstander. The FBI director was investigating Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election, including possible ties between Trump's campaign and the Russian government. Democrats condemned the move as Nixonian and demanded the appointment of a special prosecutor as a guarantee of independence. 4 candidates to succeed Comey were due for the first interviews with Attorney General Jeff Sessions and his deputy, Rod Rosenstein, at Department of Justice headquarters on Saturday. First to arrive was Alice Fisher, a high-ranking DOJ official in the George W. Bush administration, who left after about 90 minutes. Acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe, Michael J. Garcia, an associate judge on New York's highest court, and Republican John Cornyn of Texas, a former state attorney general, were expected in the afternoon. Trump said on Saturday that we can make a fast decision on the appointment, potentially before he leaves for Saudi Arabia on Thursday. Even that is possible, he told reporters. I think the process is going to go quickly. Almost all of them are very well known. They've been vetted over their lifetime, essentially. But very well known, highly respected, really talented people. And that's what we want for the FBI. Meanwhile, in an interview on Fox News' Justice with Judge Jeanine, Trump was asked about reports that he had asked Comey whether he had his loyalty. The president said, "No. No, I didn't. But I don't think it would be a bad question to ask. I think loyalty to the country, loyalty to the United States, is important. You know, I mean it depends on how you define loyalty, number one. Number two, I don't know how that got there, because I didn't ask that question." Trump lashed out at Comey on Friday, tweeting that the former FBI director better hope that there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press. The ambiguous reference raised the specter of a possible obstruction of justice and drew comparisons to the secretly taped conversations and phone calls that led to President Richard Nixon's resignation in the Watergate scandal in the 1970s. The president refused to comment on the tweet in his Fox News interview. "I won't talk about that. All I want is for Comey to be honest, and I hope he will be, and I'm sure he will be, I hope." Comey declined a request to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee on Tuesday. Jim Seato, chief national security correspondent of CNN, tweeted, "Source with first-hand knowledge tells me Comey turned down Senate invite to testify. BC wants to lay low for a while and take some time off."